Hi, my name is Eric Daw, and as you notice, I almost fell, or kinda almost fell. How many times have you had moments where you've almost tripped, fallen, stumbled, or unfortunately fallen yourself? I was reading my cell phone, and I'm sure when you're distracted, typically these are when falls are most likely to happen, particularly as we get older or in general. So what are some ways, if you unfortunately do fall, what are some ways to prevent any sort of serious injury? Well, we're gonna go through a few things. That first are gonna be, what are certain things you wanna avoid? And then, what are some practical steps to avoid injury if you do fall? But as I like to say, before we do any of that stuff, let's get into it. So I'm gonna start first with telling you what you shouldn't do, and that's all about not breaking your wrist. Our natural human reaction when we fall is to put our hands out. And the only problem with putting your hands out is then if you land hard, your wrists are more likely to break. So I'm gonna tell you what you should do just now, but first off, if you can avoid putting your hands out, that's what I want you to do first. Secondly, I want you to avoid hitting this. The reason why is if you hit your head, this is where we get any sort of concussions or any sort of brain injuries. So we want to avoid our wrist and our head. Those are the two first things we want to avoid doing. And I know it's not always easy, but there's certain things I'm going to have you practice to avoid that you don't hit those parts. So I just showed you what not to do when it comes to falling, but let me show you what to do when it comes to falling to potentially reduce injury. So the first thing I want you to do is make yourself smaller. As you see me doing in this example, I bend my knees. By bending your knees, you're actually bringing yourself closer to the ground. The higher you fall from, the harder the fall. So as they say, the higher the distance, the harder the fall. If you can bring your body or shrink your body size down or bend your knees, it actually makes your fall easier. Secondly, I want you to aim for your shoulder. Your shoulders have your meaty, well, hopefully you have some muscle on it or you have some meat on your shoulder. I want you to avoid your hips because as we know, particularly if you have osteoporosis, you don't want to break your hips. So I ideally want you to aim for your shoulder. Yes, I know what you're thinking already. You're thinking, can't I hurt my shoulder? Yes, but at least you know if you hurt your shoulder, there's more meat and you can actually have more meat to absorb the fall. So you're not gonna necessarily come out of this unscathed, particularly because you're falling and if you're falling on a hard surface, but aiming for your shoulder is always better than breaking both hands or both wrists. So aim for your shoulder. So the third part is actually a great example and all has to do with thinking about the example of jumping out of a plane with a parachute. You see that person coming down with a lot of speed and you know that they're gonna hit the ground with a lot of speed. But what do you notice they typically do when they land? I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, I'm not gonna hold out any longer. They roll. I want you to see that they roll in the fall, and the biggest reason that they roll is it actually takes away some of the impact of the fall. So you know the saying, stop, drop, and roll? Well, when it comes to falling, I want you to basically don't stop, but drop and roll. No stop, but just drop and roll. So it's gonna absorb some of the fall. So those are my three things I'm gonna have you do when it comes to falling to reduce the impact of the fall. So folks, I would love to guarantee you that a fall would never happen, but I can't because there's always a probability of tripping or slipping or stumbling or falling on something. So if that happens to you, follow these steps because we really want to make sure that you reduce our chances of injury, particularly if it's a head injury, if you have osteoporosis or you break some sort of bone. Also, in addition to this, I have a video about what if you do fall, how do you get back up? So please watch this video. I'm gonna hopefully link it right above me or link it somewhere here. On that note, folks, if you've had a slip and fall, let me know in the comments below. Or if you do something that you found effective to reduce falls, let me know here too. On that note, this is Eric Daw from OmniFit. Take care.